And thank you all for being here today and for your testimony. And also, thank you to all the service members for what they do every day to keep our country safe. I represent a district in Central Florida, and I had a chance to visit with some of the Florida National Guard that were deployed to DC, and also to have had some conversations with the Florida National Guard leadership. And I think a few things stand out to me. One, it's clear that the multiple deployments and the high op tempo has had an effect on morale and, possibly on retention. As some of the previous questioners talked a bit about that, and I think it may be too early to have the data to say exactly what impact that will have. But I think that's something that we should watch for. But we have to understand these are citizen soldiers who've been repeatedly called away from their families and their jobs and put in fairly stressful situations. And I think in Florida, this strain has been really amplified because despite having one of the largest states, we have a relatively smaller guard. We are number 53 of 54 in guardsmen to citizens ratio. And during a pandemic, it's not really feasible to borrow guardsmen from other states as we would normally do in responding to a geographically focused natural disaster. And I think on top of this, for Florida, the pandemic has disproportionately impacted us because we have one of the highest percentages of more mature Americans as a part of our state population. And those are the Americans who are more vulnerable to the negative impacts of COVID and most in need of vaccinations, along with our frontline and essential workers. And then in the nature of being a superlative, we're also one of the states with one of the greatest incidents of natural disasters. So I look at all of this and I see a lot of risk here going into this coming year and into the summer when hurricane season starts for us. I'm really worried about the ability to respond to the requirements and then the impact on the men and women who serve in our Guard. So General Nordhaus, two questions for you. In the near term, as we look out on this year and Florida's natural disaster season, it's going to put additional operational pressures on our National Guard force. How is this going to be balanced with the increased vaccination pace this summer? And then in the long term, what efforts are underway to study the proportion of guardsmen to citizens to ensure that we have sufficient forces to support the whole range of needs from disaster response to emerging challenges like COVID support?
Congresswoman, thank you for the question. On the first side, as we get to the summer, hopefully with the number of vaccinations that will be available by June and July, that we get really close to having all of our service members vaccinated, and that will help as we go into that season. Every year we do get together and we have workshops that bring all 54 together for domestic operations, and we look at the EMACS, Emergency Management Assistant Compacts between states to help assist in things like hurricanes that Florida might be undergoing from other states nearby. As you know, Florida has helped out in other states through hurricanes over the last couple years. As far as the force structure per civilian ratio within the state, Major General Eifert, the Adjutant General, will work that through the Army National Guard and the force structure committees to push that forward and then have any decisions through the service.
Well, as he does that, he has the support, my support for sure, for us to take another look at making sure that our Guard is appropriately scaled for the size of our state. Just pivoting to another question, a little unrelated. I know that DOD has been looking at the impact of right-wing extremist ideologies on the ability of DOD to carry out its duties. Has there been a similar effort within the Guard, and how have some of these early analysis come out?
Congresswoman, we fall right underneath the Secretary of Defense's new thing that he just pushed out. It's not tolerated across the National Guard or anywhere within our organization. It goes against our fundamental principle of the oath that we take, and so it can't be tolerated. And we're working through our services, both the Air National Guard and the Army National Guard, through the service programs that come down from the Secretary of Defense and the stand down within the next 60 days, and we'll implement those all going forward.
Thank you, and I yield back.